Ahmed, this is what's coming up. We speak to survivors of torture living in London who tell us about suffering at the hands of the authorities in Bangladesh.
It was my thinking that I am dying. My son, my daughter, my wife will never come to know that I have been killed.
Well, the accusations are strongly denied ahead of elections in Bangladesh this weekend. Also on the programme.
Our energy bills have gone up by about 250%, about £1,000 a week.
We look at a popular MasterChef London restaurant forced to close due to rising costs. A police officer is found guilty of gross misconduct over a violent stop and search on an innocent man in West London. And defying gravity, the incredible Cirque du Soleil returns to the Royal Albert Hall. We meet some of the Londoners taking part.
A very warm welcome to BBC London. I'm Thomas McGill. As Bangladesh gears up for national elections, concerns are growing here among the London Bangladeshi community about alleged government repression against the opposition. Demonstrations have been taking place while some exiled Bangladeshis allege torture of activists back home. The Bangladesh government strongly denies systematic abuses, as Guy Lynn reports.
Moshiur now lives in Barking with his wife and son. But his crutches are a bitter reminder every day of what happened to him in Bangladesh.
They started beating me without talking anything. They started beating me. They used to beat in the joints, our body.
He used to live happily in Dhaka, but he was seized in 2015 and tortured, he says, by secret policemen for several months for his links to the opposition BNP party.
I thought that they will take me and kill me right that moment. It was my thinking that I am dying. My son, my daughter, my wife will never come to know that I have been killed. Actually, I cannot remember the things, what happens with me. You can't understand actually. I mean,
do you really mean you are concerned about Bangladesh?
In the capital, there have been regular demonstrations from those in London's Bangladeshi community who are opposed to the current regime. There's been concern over a number of years about violence against political dissent. The regime says recent unrest has been fuelled by the opposition BNP party, and the upcoming elections, which the BNP has refused to take part in, will be free and fair. Bangladesh's Ministry of Foreign Affairs told us they deny any systematic violence, torture, kidnaps or disappearances of political party members. Any past allegations were proved to be false, they say. New ones will be thoroughly investigated. Every day, Abrar looks at these pictures of his dad, who he last saw in 2012 when he was just 17. His dad was a prominent opposition politician, but one night he was kidnapped, Abrar suspects, because of his political links. His family still don't know whether he's alive or dead.
It's the trauma within the family, handling each other's emotions. I can't really explain it in words, to be honest. It's very hard for us as a family, as a son as well. One day you have your father and you cannot even think of living without your father, and the next day there's no whereabouts of him.
For now, Abrar's trying to start up his life as an immigration lawyer. Meanwhile, Moshiur is still trying to recuperate after the violence he suffered. The trauma, he says, will never leave him. Guy Lynn, BBC London.
2 people have been charged in connection with a fire at the constituency office of MP Mike Freer in North Barnet. Police were called to the office in Ballards Lane on Christmas Eve after reports of a fire in a shed. Paul Harwood and Zara Kasuri appeared at Willesden Magistrates Court earlier and will appear at court again in February. A MasterChef finalist says he's heartbroken after he and his wife were forced to close their restaurant in South East London. Tony Rudd employs around 20 people at the Copper and Ink restaurant in Blackheath, but he says it's no longer viable and believes the cost of living crisis is having a big impact on customers.
Everybody says the same thing. Their mortgages have increased, their shopping bills have increased, their energy bills have gone up. And as a result, people that were eating out twice a month are eating out once a month, or if it was twice a week, it's once a week. So we felt that. And I think on top of that, sadly for us, all of our overheads have also shot up.
Well, it comes as UK Hospitality said the sector urgently needs government help. In response, the Department for Business and Trade said the Chancellor pledged more than £4 billion of support for small businesses and hospitality sector. Now, the cost of heating has meant more and more people are turning to warm banks. That's spaces where you can go when it's cold. One charity has set up around 300 of them across London. And bosses are discovering it's not just heat the space is providing for communities. Ross Miklashevich reports.
Fresh fruit and veg for the shelves. But this isn't a supermarket or corner shop. It's a church hall, converted into what's known as a warm space.
That's when we were removing all the dump. This
one in Walthamstow set up last year. The original plan to help people cope with the biggest rise in prices in 70 years. A year on, not much has changed.
I mean, as far as cost of living is concerned, even people actually, like even two-income families, it's such a tight squeeze at the moment.
Vera's here today to stay warm, but also do a fresh food shop, all for a fraction of the price she'd pay down the road in her local supermarket.
With everything's going up, you know, I have to minimise how I spend my money.
How much did you pay?
It's £5 for this. That's as much, and it's very great price for this.
But far from being sites of desperation, these places have become beacons of hope for those that live nearby.
There are almost 300 of these spaces now across the capital, and what they do is usually start off as a response to something like the cost of living crisis, but what they really become is the hub of the local community.
People came because they were looking for warmth. That was the idea. They wouldn't be able to turn on the heating at home, so they came for the heating, but often what they did is they stayed for the meeting because they met people, they connected with people here in their communities, and we found that social connection, meeting friends, chatting with them, volunteering at spaces, that's been a really big impact.
When we look in our news or we see, you know, the cost of living crisis as it is, there's so much to be so not optimistic about. But if you come here on a Thursday afternoon and you give out a hot chocolate to someone, or you receive something, or you have a chat with somebody, you talk to somebody, one of your neighbours, you'll see so much hope.
And with the cost of living still biting, that demand for optimism that these places provide will continue to be needed. Ross Miklashevich, BBC London.
Now, a Tesco Express store in Soho has been saved from demolition after being formally recognised as a community asset. Westminster City Council made the decision about the Dean Street branch after residents responded in a survey to the supermarket, saying that the supermarket would be something they'd really miss. And finally, the Tower of London has a new resident. Not a beefeater. Say hello to Nicky, a kitten belonging to a yeomanry warder. And that takes us to the weather with Kate Kinsella.
Good afternoon. It was a dry, bright but quite chilly start first thing this morning. Beautiful sunrise, but the cloud has been edging in ever since. Fairly high to start with this morning. You see this beautiful halo around the sun, spotted in a few places earlier on today, but the cloud has been thickening. This afternoon, the Met Office has a yellow weather warning in place for heavy rain. Now you can see the progression of this rain coming in from the southwest, cloud thickening, the rain arriving. The wind will also strengthen as that rain moves through the afternoon. Heavy, persistent rain, widely 10 to 20 millimetres, could be more locally, and of course it's falling on saturated ground, so could lead to localised flooding. Temperatures today around 10 Celsius. A very wet end to the day. Through the evening that rain is heavy and persistent. Only through the early hours will it start to gradually break up and turn patchy. It's going to be quite a windy night too. The minimum temperature, if that cloud breaks in the west, could drop as low as 3 Celsius. So a chilly start again tomorrow. Any remnants of that system, the cloud, any rain will clear away eastwards. A drier afternoon, the wind a bit lighter, some brighter spells, maybe even some sunny spells, but the temperature through Friday getting chillier, 8 Celsius the maximum. The good news for the weekend is high pressure is building, meaning that it's going to be a slightly more settled weekend, a drier weekend, quite a bit of cloud around, but less rain, not quite so windy, but we are dragging in this colder air. So the temperature is dropping. Daytime temperatures, although dry, getting up to mid-single figures. Into next week, it's getting colder. Nighttime temperatures could see the return of overnight frosts.
OK, the BBC News app has the very latest for you, including how this weekend's tube strike will affect services. Assad will be with you at 6:30. Until then, have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.